today's update for Hall or Nothing. I'm Tristan Hall, and I'm a designer and publisher for Hall or Nothing Productions, and also the designer of 1815 Scum of the Earth. And I thought I'd check in with you guys because today's been pretty historic for us. So we've exceeded the funding goal for 1066 Tears to Many Mothers, which was the first HEBS game that I designed and published. And so the goal for that Kickstarter campaign was like £75,366. And so as I speak, 1815 Scum of the Earth has just exceeded that, and we still have 4 days to go. So for me, that's really spectacular because we have obviously a kind of a catalogue of games now with the Gloom of Kilforth and Shadows of Kilforth. We've got these fantasy adventure games, and we've got the historic epic battle system games as well. But it's much harder to sort of get reach for historical games. You know, fantasy games tend to seem to fare better in the market, kind of thing. And I kind of love both equally. So it's really sort of reassuring that, you know, this far in, people are still coming to support these historic games. You know, the historic epic battle system, as we call it. So for us to be able to have beaten 1066 Tears to Many Mothers is just terrific. So before anything else, I just want to say thank you so much. Thanks for supporting the game and for coming back to us if you've supported us before, and welcome if you're new to Hall or Nothing and you don't know who the heck I am. Thank you for taking a punt on us and for supporting the game. I'm really excited about 1815 Scum of the Earth. I don't think there's anybody else doing what we're doing with history games, you know, and giving them this sort of Magic the Gathering kind of aesthetic, which I think makes these really sort of incredible historical stories much more accessible for not non-gamers, but perhaps more casual gamers that aren't into war games, you know, that are sort of quite heavy rule sets and long playtime, high complexity games that are not as accessible for people who just want to sort of dip in and experience the history and learn a bit about it and enjoy the gameplay and stuff, but without spending, you know, 6 or 8 hours of solid, intense gameplay. So the fact that you can play a game like Scum of the Earth in half an hour in your lunch break, you know, really, I think, I hope, makes it a lot more accessible and makes it something that you're willing to just sort of grab off the shelf more easily, more quickly. And especially because you can play it solo as well, so it's brilliant to sort of, I don't know about you guys, well, I do know about you guys, most of us are locked down, right? So you're sat at home, you've got a lot of time on your hands. I've always been a huge proponent of solo games, and so I've tried to make sure that all of our games have a solo element in them, and so 1815 Scum of the Earth is no different in that respect. And I love being able to play solo games, not just for learning how to play them, you know, so I'm ready to introduce them on the next game night, but sometimes I just want to get away and just, you know, be away from the screen and be away from the TV and phone and everything else and just get to grips with a board game by myself, you know, if there's no friends or family available to play with. So yeah, so 1815 Scum of the Earth has the solo play. It also presents Waterloo in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. Like, there are a million games about Napoleon and the Napoleonic era and Waterloo, and so that was obviously on my mind whilst designing the game. Would we have anything new to sort of bring to that, because people have done it so well and so in such a detailed manner before in all these like hex and chit style war games and stuff, but I don't think anybody had ever or has ever produced anything like this, which, you know, has this gorgeous artwork and sort of really fast paced gameplay with like a really kind of modern take on it, you know, like a card game, a back and forth card game that also has the two sides of the game, the two halves of the game, as it were, where in the first half you're going through all the objectives that the Duke of Wellington and Napoleon had to overcome in order to get to Waterloo in the first place, and those in themselves were huge challenges, especially the battles of Quatre Bras and Ligny, and also the assembling of these gigantic armies. You know, the numbers on either side are staggering compared to like the games we've done previously. You know, you're talking about tens of thousands of troops on either side and carnage that had almost never been seen before, certainly not in Europe to that kind of scale. And with the warfare, you know, that had developed, the cannons that they were using on either side, One of the most like intriguing aspects of the Battle of Waterloo for me is that from Napoleon's and Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington's point of view, it was almost like this epic game of rock, paper, scissors. Obviously it's that's like a callous sort of interpretation. We talk about tens of thousands of people's lives, but that's how they mobilised their units to fight each other, is that they had formations, and the battle was fought heavily over these different types of formations. So, for example, an English line would be hundreds of troops deployed into literally a long line of troops, 2 rows deep, but hundreds long, and that was great for advancing upon like an enemy column, because if you had 500 guys in each row, all 500 of those guys in the front line would be able to fire their rifles or muskets at the enemy. Whereas if the enemy's advancing in columns, they would have, they could be 50 wide or 20 wide and really deep. And however many they had in the front row, that's how many people that could return fire effectively. So you'd have 500 muskets firing at 20 or 50 muskets returning fire. So it was just a slaughter. If you had a line of troops coming up against a column, the line would win. But if the enemy had cavalry, and the cavalry were able to flank a line, well, then you're talking about hundreds of horses charging along a line of troops that was 2 men deep. They could trample through the entire line of 500 and slaughter the entire line. So it was like a line beats a column, but a cavalry charge beats a line. Now, when the cavalry were charging, if the units were well trained enough, and a lot of the Imperial Guard on the French side, and certainly the British Redcoats, had this incredible training where they could form into squares. And so what that meant is it would be like a line formation, but on 4 sides. So they would turn into this compact square of 4 lines of troops all together, all backed up together. And the front row would be kneeling with their muskets out, with their blades sticking out, and the back row would be ready to fire. And horses charging at a square would just see this prickling mass of blades sticking at them and would just avoid them. So even if the cavalry wanted to charge through a square, they would struggle to. And like 9 times out of 10, or almost invariably, a square formation of troops could break a cavalry charge, as it did at Waterloo. So one of the things I really wanted to sort of capture in this game, which you haven't obviously seen in the previous 2 games, is how to sort of get my head around these different formations mechanically. Square beats cavalry charge beats line beats column kind of thing. So that's now in the game in the tactics cards. So each side has 3 tactics cards, like in the 2 previous games. But Waterloo 1815 Scum of the Earth is unique in that these tactics cards begin the game in play. So as part of your setup, you will have these cards already on the table before you even start the game, because both commanders on either side had access to these tactics at the time. So how that's reflected in the mechanics is, if you think about how your army looks in 1815 Scum of the Earth, it's a grid of 9 cards, characters and units that represent your tens of thousands of troops on either side of the battlefield. So you're lining up these cards in 3 rows of 3 columns. And so if during the game, if you're able to play your troops into such a way that you can recreate one of these formations, for example, if you manage to bring in 2 infantry in front of 2 other infantry in rows and columns, so if you can basically draw a square between 4 infantry cards, then you can create a square. So that allows you to discard your squares tactics card to destroy an enemy cavalry. Similarly, if you have 3 cavalry in a row, then you can create a cavalry charge, and you can discard your cavalry charge card to destroy an enemy infantry. And also, if you want to create a line, you can create a line formation. So as I said, lines beat columns. So if you form 3 infantry in a row, you can trigger your lines card. So it's quite a neat little mechanic whereby, obviously, with a card game, it's this huge sort of extrapolation of the events, and you can never really delve too deeply into the tactics, but it gives you a sense of that, arranging your troops into this tableau, which is literally what Wellington and Napoleon had to do, was arrange these troops on the battlefield and organise them into the different formations and everything. So there's a sense that, I mean, that's just one component of the game, one tiny sort of element of it, but it's a real sort of gear shift away from 1565 St Elmo's Pay, which was about artillery fire and stealing artillery from the enemy and stuff, which you can still do a little bit of that in Waterloo as well. It's going to be and of course a far departure from 1066 Tears to Many Mothers, which was all swords and axes and to a lesser extent bows. So anyway, I'm conscious of going on myself here, but once you sort of trigger into an idea like that, you want to kind of share it. But there's loads of cool things happening in the campaign at the moment. So we've hit that amazing goal. This is now set to be the best, most successful historic epic battle system game yet. So again, thank you so much for joining us and making this happen, because every sort of game feels like a gamble when you're a small company. It's just me and my wife Francesca, who's my co-director, and we have help from our artists and graphic designers and the people that we bring on board to make these games happen. But it always feels like a bit of a gamble, because we're such an indie player in the scene. When there's other Kickstarters out there with huge names and huge companies. So, and there's thousands of games arriving every year. So you choosing to support us over the innumerable other games that are out there, or as well as the other games out there, it's huge for us. It's brilliant, and it allows us to continue what we're doing. And certainly now, with the success of 1815 Scum of the Earth so far, we can start to think about doing the fourth game in the series, which is really exciting for me, because I just get to geek out and bury my head in the history books and start learning about the next topic. So really interested and excited to see which theatre of conflict that's going to be, and your ideas and comments and stuff have been brilliant about which theatres of conflict that you guys would like to see, and I'm all ears to that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant, and we've got the Prussian expansion. So again, this is a whole new army deck that you can play as, which we're really excited to do, because we wanted to do this for 1066 Tears to Many Mothers as well. I'd love to at some point in the future do a Vikings deck that you can play as in that game, and so we're able to sort of get the feelers for how that will work in this game by doing the Prussian army with the 1815 Give Me Knight expansion. So I'm really excited to bring that one. It's going to have new artwork, new cards, new ability types and everything. So you can, and if you don't know how to do that, some people have asked, if you want to add 1815 Give Me Knight to your pledge, it's not included in any pledge now because it arrived late in the campaign. So if you want to add it to your pledge, whatever pledge you've got, you just pick whatever you like and then just increase your pledge by £16. And if you're not 100% sure how to do that, you can message me, or you can just wait until the pledge manager. It's dead easy in the pledge manager just to pick the bits and pieces that you want. So yeah, 1815 Give Me Knight, the Prussia expansion, don't miss out on that one. And all that remains for me to say is that we have at least one more surprise before the campaign ends, so stay tuned for that. It won't be a paid add-on, so don't worry about that. It's just going to be a little something for you guys for supporting us. Oh, and we have, because of the hitting the stretch goal, as it were, for exceeding 1066 Tears to Many Mothers, all of the 1815 Scum of the Earth playmats are now going to be double-sided, as promised. So these are gorgeous, stitched, edged playmats. If you've seen any of our previous playmats from other games, they're gorgeous. The artwork is amazing. I can say that because I didn't do any of the artwork, so it's all down to our artists' abilities. But yeah, I mean, this game, it doesn't need a playmat, but it just looks so good on one. And of course, the reverse side now, because it's going to have double-sided artwork, you're going to get this big, beautiful art print that you can use for any game, as well as the tailored 1815 Scum of the Earth layout as well. So that's it for tonight. We've got 4 more days to go. I can't urge you enough to please help by just sharing, tweeting, Facebooking, all of that stuff. Even if you just tell your friends and they tell their friends, that's how we grow as a company. We rely 100% on you guys to bring it and to help us to grow these games, these projects, and the bigger they are, the better we do, the more games we can offer, the more projects we can do, the more theatres of conflict we can cover. We've got more stuff coming up this year as well, so I hope you'll stick around and join us for Hall of Kill 4 this summer, which is going to be the third in our Kill 4 Fantasy Quest game series. We've got our latest game, Veil Wraith, is on the boat now. It's going to be delivered to backers next month. That's a completely new system, and really proud of that one. Really excited to see that land and see what backers think of it. And late pledges are still available for that if you're interested. Go and check it out. Take a look at the Kickstarter page and the pledge manager, or on our website, allandnothingproductions.co.uk. You can check out the game, watch videos of the game, Veil Wraith, and you can pre-order it there as well. So that is me motor mouthing. Apologies if that was too fast or too garbled. I really appreciate you tuning in, joining the Kickstarter, and helping us to create cool games. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon.